Here's what you're missing about the Toronto Blue Jays right now. While everyone's obsessing over their big offseason moves, there's a completely under-the-radar signing that could end up being one of the smartest decisions Ross Atkins made all winter. And honestly, when you look at the numbers and what's happening behind the scenes, this might be the kind of move that changes everything. So let's talk about Eloy Jimenez. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. The guy who couldn't stay on the field, who looked completely washed last season, who the Jays actually signed to a minor league deal last year and never even called up, that Eloy Jimenez. But here's the thing that nobody's paying attention to. According to reports from Hector Gomez and Mike Rodriguez, Jimenez is currently in the best shape of his life. And I'm not talking about the typical spring training hype we hear every single year. This is different. During winter ball, Jimenez absolutely dominated. He led the entire league with 16 RBIs and smashed 10 doubles, which was the most in the round robin. But what really caught my eye was Rodriguez saying that Jimenez is working out twice a day, every single day, morning and afternoon. And get this, he's apparently playing above average defense at first base. When's the last time anyone said Eloy Jimenez and defense in the same sentence without laughing? Now look, I get the skepticism. His 2024 season was brutal. He finished with a .625 OPS at the major league level, couldn't field his position, and basically looked like his career was over at 29 years old. But you have to remember what this guy was just a few years ago. In 2022, he put up an .858 OPS with a 141 OPS plus in 84 games. That's not just good. That's legitimately elite production. In 2023, he was still serviceable with a .758 OPS. The talent didn't just evaporate overnight. What happened to Jimenez is what happens to a lot of young players who deal with chronic injuries. The body breaks down, the confidence goes, and suddenly you're fighting just to stay relevant. But if he's genuinely transformed his body and is healthy for the first time in years, we could be looking at a massive steal here. Mike Rodriguez is confident enough to predict a 30 home run, 90 RBI season if Jimenez stays healthy and gets playing time. Now, I'm not going that far, but even half of that production would be incredible value for a minor league contract. Think about what the Blue Jays need right now. They brought in Ty France at the deadline last year, even though there wasn't really room for him on the roster. They clearly value depth at first base and DH, especially if it gives them flexibility to rest Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Right now, Guerrero's going to play first base every single day, and the backup options are pretty thin. Okamoto is being projected by some, but he's only getting 4% of the playing time projections. That's where Jimenez could fit in. The beauty of this is there's literally zero risk. It's a minor league deal. If he doesn't perform in spring training, you cut him and move on. But if Dave Popkins can work his magic, and we've seen what he can do with reclamation projects, you might have a legitimate weapon off the bench. Someone who can crush lefties, provide protection in the lineup, and give you quality at-bats when Santander or Springer or Kirk need a day off from DH duties. Let me put this in perspective. Go back and look at Jimenez's StatCast page from 2020 or 2022. The exit velocities were elite. The barrel rates were fantastic. He had years where his metrics looked like an all-star. Yes, his 2024 page looks like a disaster, but the underlying skills were still there. He had good exit velos even in his worst season. The problem was everything else, the injuries, the inability to field, the lack of consistency. But skills don't just disappear. They get buried under bad circumstances. And here's what makes this even more interesting. Jimenez was once a top prospect, a five-tool player before injuries derailed everything. He was ranked as a 52 player on the prospect scale, which is incredibly high. The White Sox thought they had a future franchise cornerstone. Obviously that didn't happen, but the pedigree is real. This isn't some guy who had one lucky season. This is someone who was built to be great and just never got healthy enough to sustain it. Now let's talk about the farm system for a second, because this is actually massive news that's flying under the radar. Kylie McDaniel from ESPN just ranked the Blue Jays farm system 16th in baseball. And I know what you're thinking, 16th doesn't sound special, but you have to understand where this organization was just 2 years ago. Before the 2024 trade deadline, the Jays had one of the absolute worst farm systems in baseball. They'd been in win-now mode for years, trading away prospects left and right, and the cupboard was bare. To go from bottom 5 to 16th in just 2 years is remarkable. And here's the kicker. They got to 16th after already trading away multiple top prospects. They sent Rainer Nunez and other pieces for Anthony Dominguez. They moved their number 5 overall prospect, Cal Stevenson, along with others for Shane Bieber. They dealt prospects at the deadline, and they're still ranked in the top half of baseball. That's incredible organizational depth. McDaniel has Trey Savage ranked 14th overall among all prospects, calling him someone with one of the highest floors in recent top 100 history. That's not just high praise, that's saying Savage is almost a sure thing to be a productive major leaguer. Then you've got Jojo Parker, their recent first-round pick, who McDaniel projects could hit .275 with 20 home runs. You've got Johnny King and Gage Staniford as legitimate top 10 prospects in the system. And then the sleepers, Sam Shaw and Juan Sanchez, who both have top 100 potential. This is what organizational health looks like. You've got high-floor guys like Savage who project as safe bets. You've got high-ceiling guys like Parker who could be stars. You've got depth pieces who might not be superstars but could be quality major leaguers. And you've got sleepers who could jump into the top 100 if they break out. That's a complete farm system. What excites me most is that some of these guys could impact the major league roster this year. Ricky Tiedemann could absolutely force his way into the rotation if he's healthy. We've seen how electric his stuff is when he's on. Johnny King probably needs more time, but his ceiling as a potential rotation piece is real. Even some of the position player prospects could get looks if injuries happen, or if they're just too good to keep down. Remember, this is a farm system that's 16th in baseball after aggressively trading prospects. Imagine where they'd be ranked if they'd held on to everyone. And more importantly, imagine where they could be ranked a year from now. If Parker has a big year, if Sanchez breaks out, if Shaw takes a step forward, if any of the pitching prospects pop, they could legitimately crack the top 10. That would be a complete 180 from where this organization was just a few years ago. I remember when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. made his debut, his dad in the stands, that doubled down the line in his first game. Those were exciting times because the farm system was loaded. Then they went all in on winning, which was the right move, but it depleted everything. Now we're finally getting back to having legitimate prospect depth again, and it feels like the organization is healthy top to bottom. The Jimenez signing and the farm system ranking might seem like separate stories, but they're actually connected. Both represent the Blue Jays making smart, low-risk moves that could pay off huge. Jimenez is a lottery ticket that costs nothing. The farm system is the result of smart drafting and development finally starting to pay dividends, and both give this organization flexibility going forward. So yeah, while everyone's talking about whether Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will sign an extension or what the rotation looks like, I'm watching Eloy Jimenez's spring training performance and tracking which prospects are going to jump into the top 100. Because sometimes the best stories aren't the headlines. Sometimes they're the moves nobody's paying attention to that end up changing everything. And right now, the Blue Jays have a bunch of those moves working in the background. We'll see if they pay off.